This week's Parsha, Parshas Tetzaveh, where Hashem says to Moshe, Ato Tetzaveh B'nai Yisrael, you should command the B'nai Yisrael, Yikro Eilecho Shem Zayizoch, and they should take on your behalf pure olive oil, kosis lamor, that's pressed for illumination, lalos ner tomid, to kindle a continuous light. Number of difficulties. The Torah could have said tzavis b'nei Yisrael, command the b'nei Yisrael what's atot tetzaveh. You personally should be the one to give the instruction. And what's v'yikro eilecho? They should take for you the olive oil. What relevance does Moshe Rabbeinu have to olive oil? V'yikro shemen zayizoch, they should take the oil, pure olive oil, which is pressed for illumination. Seems to be there's some personalization between the olive oil that's used for the Menorah and Moshe Rabbeinu. What's the connection between the two? And Ato, you should be the one to give the command. There's an emphasis on you. You should be the one. So the Ramban explains, Eilecho, when they bring the olive oil, initially, you should be the one to make the evaluation whether it's pure enough. Because only the first droplet of oil that was extracted from the olive qualified for illumination. The other oil, which was less pure, qualified for the meal offerings. So who's going to make that evaluation? You'll be the one to make that evaluation. That's how the Ramban explains. The Sephara over here explains what's the Atot Tetzaveh. It's understood in regard to the Mishkan, the Torah always says, V'asisa, you shall make. But it's understood Moshe didn't make the Mishkan. It was delegated through others. I mean, you should tell others what has to be done, and they will pass it down the chain of command, whoever the craftsman may be. But over here it seems to be, the Sephara says, he himself has to be the one to tell the ones who are going to extract that droplet of oil, the purest oil. There has to be a direct connection between himself and the ones who are going to press the olive, to extract the purest oil. We find the same thing in terms of installing Aaron and his children as Kohanim. Moshe has to be the one directly involved in that. That's Ato. Ato Hakrev. You should be the one. Now the question is why? Now it's interesting. V'yikro eilecho, the Baal HaTurim says that v'yikro eilecho, what's the eilecho? Take it for yourself. The inference of yourself, but not for me. Al eni tzorech l'oro. I don't need the light. It's for you, it's not for me. What does that mean? That's what's v'yikro eilecho. Eilecho does mean for you personally as Moshe Rabbeinu. Yikro eilecho means to understand the inferences and not for me. Aval eni tzorech l'ora. I don't need the light. Last week's parsha, when it spoke about the 13 materials that are needed for the Mishkan, the Torah says you need shemen la'ma'or, oil for illumination. So over there, the word ma'or is written in a deleted form. The vav for ma'or is deleted. So the Baal HaTurim says, why over there is it deleted? To communicate, God says, I don't need your light. It's not illumination for me, I don't need it. So what's the value? It's for you, not for me. What does it mean it's for you and not for me? How do we understand this? There's a midrash. The midrash says that the menorah was located michutz leparochas. It was located on the outside of the curtain. It was in the sanctuary, but it was not in the Kodesh Kadoshim. It was not in the Holy of Holies, alongside the Aron. The proper location for the Aron, for the menorah, should have been alongside the Aron. Why? Because what was contained within the Aron? The luchos, the shivrei luchos, the tablets, the broken tablets, and the Torah was there. That's Torah Shemichsav. The menorah represents Torah Shemalpeh, the oral law. So if the oral law is God's interpretation of the written law, where should have the menorah, where should have its location been? In the Holy of Holies, alongside the oral. Hashem says no. You put it michutz laparochas, on the outer side of the curtain. Why? So the Medrash says, God says, because if it would be alongside the oral, you'd think, I need your light. I don't need your light. Therefore, keep it on the other side, because the Shekhinah, the divine presence, was in the Holy of Holies. I don't need your light. So to confirm that reality, keep it on the outside, not on the inside. First of all, what's even the consideration that Hashem needs our light? We would, after standing at Sinai and understanding that God is absolute in the most perfect sense. So what's even the consideration? We need his light. Secondly, the Midrash tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu is like taken aback. Hashem says, I want you to kindle the menorah for illumination. So Moshe says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ata Oru Shel Olam, you are the light of the world. You need our light. You need the mortal's light. So Hashem says, I don't need the light. But why am I asking you to kindle the menorah? To elevate you in the eyes of the nations of the world. So the obvious difficulty is, are we trying to put it over the nations of the world? Truth, I don't need your light, but it's to give you special value in the eyes of the nations of the world. How does that give us special value? So evidently because God does need our light. So does he need our light? Does he not need our light? How do we understand it? What exactly is the value of kindling the menorah? How does that somehow elevate us in the eyes of the nations of the world? By God saying, kindle the light for me. And this continuous emphasis, as it says, V'yichu eilecha, when you take this oil for illumination, it's for you, it's not for me. So evidently there's a strong basis to say, you may think, it's for me, that Hashem needs the light. God keeps reiterating, more, it's written in the lead form, I don't need your light. It's eilecha, it's for you, it's not for me. What is this all about? We explained in the past, we studied the Ramchal in the Derech Hashem, and Rechaim Volozhna, in Nefesh HaChaim. What exactly, how exactly does existence function? Is it God created the world so many thousands of years ago, and once he put it into place, it's continuous? Well, no. There's an ongoing energy source which God wills its existence continuously. As we say every day, God renews through his goodness the act of creation continuously. So now, whether the world rises or falls, what does that depend upon? It's dependent upon Klal Yisrael, whether they do the mitzvahs or they don't do the mitzvahs. If they do the mitzvahs and they adhere to the negative and positive commandments of the Torah, the world goes forward and ascends. But if Chas v'Sholom, the Jew should fail, Hashem withdraws and the world begins faltering. That's what happens. But this is only true in regard to the Jewish people. The nations of the world, when they sin, it does not affect the global, the celestial, doesn't affect all the worlds. Only the actions of the Jews, positive and negative, affect and impact positive and negatively on all existence. And he cites the Pasuk. We say, Tnu Oz, David Mel says, Tnu Oz Le'Elokim, give power to God. Klal Yisrael, empower Hashem. Because when we do the mitzvahs and we do his will, he actually, this intensifies the energy which he infuses the world with. That's Tnu Oz Le'Elokim. We give power, we empower God. Kavayochel, we empower him. What does that mean? That's the way the system was set up. The system was set up with the context, we do the right thing, we conform with the Torah, then God responds. We don't, he withdraws. But what could you think? So if that's the case, God says, you may think I need your light, I need your energy, I need the reason for me to infuse existence. God says, I'm not locked into any system. If I should decide to override the system, despite your lack of worthiness, I should decide to maintain existence, I'm not bound by the system. God is not bound by any system. Whatever systems which are in place is only because God chose and will that system should be in place. But if God should ever will that it should function outside the system, it functions outside the system. This is the understanding of Orchem Eni Tzorich. I don't need your light. I don't need your light, meaning to infuse the world with energy. To illuminate existence, I don't need your light to do this, to bring that about. Even unrelated to that, I could bring it about. That's Yichu Eilecho. You should take the oil for yourselves. It's for you, it's not for me. God is independent of everything. It's Lamor, where it's Choser. It's written in deleted form. Again, to reiterate this, L'orchem Eni Tzorich, I don't need your light. Now, last week's parsha, we read about the menorah, exactly, its structure. So the Balaturim says over there, in the portion of menorah, the word menorah is mentioned 7 times. In this small portion of menorah, see, he explains, Zayin pomim ksiv menorah, kineged zayin rikiyim, v'zayin arotzos. The reason why menorah is mentioned 7 times in the portion of menorah, it corresponds to the 7 heavens and the 7 lands. Now he says something interesting. Vein beparshas menorah o samach. If you go through the whole portion of menorah, the letter samach you will not find mentioned in the portion of menorah. V'chem b'masa bereishis. And from the beginning of creation till the end of creation, the story of creation, what he created, the first day, second day, whatever it is, the letter samach you will not find. Now the question is why? What is this representation of samach? Not in menorah and not in regard to creation. Lomar, b'mokam ner ein soton ve'in mazik. Samach is a representation of soton, that's Satan. That's the koach hara. That's the representation of evil. That's the counterforce to everything of kedusha. He says, b'mokum ner, where there's a ner, ain't sotan ve'mazik. There's no sotan, there's no damage. U'beschus ner mitzvah Torah or. In the merit of ner mitzvah and Torah being the illuminator, so same piv shel sotam elastim. It silences, it closes the mouth of Satan that he cannot prosecute. So what is the ultimate silencer of Satan? The Schus HaTorah. The Schus of Torah silences Satan. Okay, let's talk about this. Gemara says in a number of locations, Barosi Yetzirah Barsi Torah Tavni. I've created the evil inclination, and what's its antidote? Its antidote is the Torah itself. That incapacitates the Satan. Gemara says, if you met up with this unsavory character, the Yitzhara, Moshchol Beis HaMedrash. Bring him to the Beis Medrash. Once you bring the Beis Medrash, he'll disappear. He's not going to in any way have any level of influence on you because of the study of Torah. So that's Ner Mitzvah Torah, B'schus HaTorah, Sosim Piv Shel Sotan. It silences him. It seals his mouth from all levels of prosecution. What's the whole concept of Torah or? Torah or, it creates an illumination. It creates a clarity. Now, there's a medrash. The medrash tells us that by these different species that Avram had taken, was told to take by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in regard to the brisbane absorbing the common between the parts, he was told to take 2 types of birds, Tor v'gozol. Tor is the dove, turtle dove. Gozol means a pigeon. Now, each one of these species represents one of the exiles. Who's Gozel? Gozel is Edom, is the Edomites. Why are they called Gozel? Shegozlan das Abrios. Because they deceive the human mind. Esav, what is Esav? Esav is the founding father of Edom. He's referred to as the Ramai. He was the charlatan, he was the deceiver, which no one could actually hold up a light to him in terms of deception. That's the Gozel. Gozel is the Edom, Shegozlan das Abrios. What's the Yetzer Hara? The Medrash tells us that the Yetzer Hara is, you have a person, he's an amputee, he doesn't have feet, and he sits behind a table, and he's thrashing with a sword, but nobody knows, there's no way he can't walk. He's really limited. But since you only see the upper part of his body, you're intimidated, you're terrified by him. The Yetzer Hara only seems to be that, but in reality he's nothing. He's nothing, it's all a fiction. He presents something which is nothing, which is even detrimental as the ultimate. That's what he does, the Sultan. So what is the Sultan? The Sultan is the one who goes in das Habrios. So what Edom is, what the Edomites, what Esav was, he is the physical representation of what Sultan is. The Sitra Achra, what we call. The Samach Mem, that's what Edom is. So with his light, something appears to be pure and exceptional. What happens when you put it under the light? Then you see it's nothing. What is the light that sheds and reveals that it's nothing? Ner mitzvah Torah or. The light of Torah is that illuminator that you realize through the spiritualization of the person that that's nothing. We're only drawn because of our inward nature, which has to do with our physicality. But if a person is spiritualized through the study of Torah, that's or, he's incapacitated. That's what's the antidote. The Torah itself is the antidote to the what? To the Yetzirah, to the evil inclination. That's the understanding. So therefore the menorah, which represents Torah Sheba'al Peh, which is the ultimate level of Torah, you will not find the letter Samach. Samach is Soton, because with this Torah, there is no Samach, there's no Soton. They cannot coexist. Now, if we're saying Edom is the Gozel, he is the deceiver. We say, Hakol Kol Yaakov Yadayim Yedei Esav. When the voice is the voice of Yaakov, the hands are not the hands of Esav. Esav we're not vulnerable to Esav's attack whatsoever. Because when are we vulnerable to Esav's attack? If we lack in clarity. Then he could act as the deceiver. But if Yaakov is functioning, the Jews function as Yaakov functioned, that the Kol Skol Yaakov, which is Torah and Tefillah, and then what? Then we have Or. When we Or, then there's no Esav. Then Eina Yadayim Yedei Esav. But if the Kol is not Kol Yaakov, we're immersed in the physicality of existence, which as physical beings, we have limitation. We're blind. And then we're subject to the evil inclination. Then it's like the Yadayim Yedei Esav. Because then he's able to deceive us, and we're subject and influenced by his influences. We find that before Yaakov had met up with Esav, he wrestled with an angel. And it says, Vayovek ish imo, Aralos HaShachar. A man wrestled with him until dawn. And the angel saw he couldn't defeat Yaakov. He touched his thigh, dislocated his hip. Is what he did. Now, who is this angel? So Chazal tell us this angel was the archangel of Edom, the Edomite angel. He was the equivalent of the Samach Mem, represented the most intense level of impurity. That's that angel. The Yetzer Hara, the most intense level of evil inclination, which is the angel of Edom. He couldn't incapacitate Yaakov. Why couldn't he incapacitate Yaakov? The reason why he couldn't incapacitate Yaakov was, what is Yaakov? Yaakov is Ishtam Yishim Holim. Yaakov is the man of the tent who never detaches himself, not for a moment, from Torah itself. Not for a moment from Torah. As a result of that, he wasn't able to defeat Yaakov. Because Yaakov had that level of clarity because of what he represented, the angel couldn't defeat him. That's the reason. Now, Chazal tell us, in Hebrew, the word ovok means dust. That when they wrestled, the angel who wrestled with Yaakov kicked up dust to go to Kisei Yaakov, to the heavenly throne of Hashem. Now, what is dust? You have a dust storm, you lack in clarity, you can't see. He tried to create a veil, to veil the truth that you couldn't see the truth. That's what he tried to do. And that Yaakov would have been blinded by this. But Yaakov, being the Ishtam Yoshev Oholim, being the man of Torah, being the Torah Or, at the most exceptional level, Yaakov, he defeated. He was the victor. That's what happened. We find that Yaakov, when he was traveling to Lavan, to Choron, he stopped off on Har Moriah, Mount Moriah, and he fell asleep and he had a prophecy. And he had witnessed angels ascending and descending. Who are these angels who were ascending and descending? So Chazal tell us each one was one of the archangels of the various exiles of the Jewish people. The first angel he saw this ascended was the archangel of the Babylonians. That was the Babylonian exile. It ascended 70 rungs, which are the 70 years of exile. Then it came down. Then he saw the archangel of Parasomodai, the Persians, ascend so many rungs, came down. Then he saw the archangel of the Greeks, Yavon, this is the Hanukkah time, ascend, come down. Then he saw the archangel of Edom ascending, and he's going up and up. He's not coming down. He's not coming down. Yaakov is terrified. What does this mean? That means it's going to be forever. The Golos, Edom, is forever, the exile. Hashem says, when it's time to come down, I will take him down. As much as Edom is soaring, when it's time to take him down, I will take him down. What exactly was Yaakov taken aback? Edom is soaring and ascending up and up and up. It's not coming down. But if we're saying that Torah Or, that where the light is, there is no samach. So how could he ascend to such a level to reach literally the Kisei HaKavod and beyond? It doesn't come down. If that's the case, they cannot coexist. Because his existence only when there's a lack of clarity. How does he ascend to such heights? Hashem says, when it's time to come down, I will take him down. It's not forever. He's not reaching those levels. He cannot reach those levels. Again, this is the samach. The samach is not there. The samach cannot be there. Because Sodom cannot be in a location where there's Or. Where there's Torah, you cannot have Sodom. For the same reason. We find that there's a claim against Moshe and Chazal. The first battle with Amalek was in Refidim. We came to Refidim, and why were we vulnerable to the attack of Amalek? Gemara tells us, because they were not fully committed and engaged in Torah study. So because we were not fully engaged in Torah study, therefore we were attacked by Amalek. Who fought the battle on behalf of Klal Yisrael? Yoshua. Yoshua went to battle, and Moshe prayed. It says, as Moshe Rabbeinu's hands were elevated, the Jews were victorious. When he lowered his hair, the Amalekites were victorious. So the Midrash, now he chose Yeshua, who was his primary student, should lead them in battle. First, Yeshua is from the tribe of Ephraim. Ephraim is what? That's Zaroshel Rochel. And since Ein Zaroshel Esav Novel Zaroshel Rochel, since the progeny of Esav only falls in the hands of the progeny of Esav, of Rochel, therefore, Yeshua being a descendant, a grandson of Rochel Himenu, therefore he led the Jews into battle against Amalek, Because that's Zaroshel Esav. He's the progeny of Esav Amalek. This is the reason. And that's why the story of Purim, Mordechai and Esther, they were from Binyamin, was the son of Rachel, also Amalek. So the Medrash tells us there's a little bit of a claim against Moshe. Moshe himself should have led the battle. He shouldn't have sent Yeshua. Now, the Gemara tells us that Pnei Moshe Pnei Chama, that the countenance of Moshe is like the sun, and Yeshua is Pnei Levana. He's like the face of the moon. The moon is only a reflection of the sun. The sun is the source of light. The moon is not the source of light, it only reflects the light of the sun. Therefore, the light of the moon is much less than the light of the sun, for that reason. But what does that mean? Why was his light at that special level? Pnei Moshe Pnei Chama. Because Moshe Rabbeinu, what he illuminated with, because he was the source of the Torah. He was the one who directly received the Torah from Hashem. He was spiritual light at a level nobody spiritualized. His connection to emes, to truth, to light, was he was directly connected to Hashem. Chobesi Nemon, he's the most faithful servant of mine. So if that's the case, if he would go to battle with Amalek, what would be? Amalek doesn't stand the chance, not for a moment. Because Amalek is Samach, and in the location of Or, there's no place for Samach. Yeshua, although he's like the face of the moon, he's a reflection of his Rebbe, but he's not that light. He's not that ultimate light. And because he's not that ultimate light, the one who should have fought that battle should have been Moshe Rabbeinu, not Yeshua. As a result of that, there's a claim against Moshe. Why did you send Yeshua? Your student, you should have gone to battle. Because you being the Or, ultimately, it couldn't have, there wouldn't have been a chance. Amalek would have lost and been defeated totally immediately for that reason. Now, what's the reason why we're speaking of Or? When something is fully illuminated, you see it in its true color, its true reality. You see what's emes and we see what's sheker. We find that Shlomo Melech, how does he depict the Torah? He says, emes kenei v'al timkor. Acquire truth, don't sell truth. So how do we pick Torah? What's Torah depicted as? Emes. Truth. Truth means unadulterated truth. Truth in its absolute form. If you have truth in its absolute form, there's no place for what? For sheker. Emes yesh lo raglayim, sheker ein lo raglayim. Truth prevails. Falsehood does not prevail. Ultimately, it will fall. But what's truth? We say, V'tar libeinu la'avdcha b'emes. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. When we talk about purity, total purity, you serve Hashem b'emes. Moshe being the pure one, being emes, being the man of truth, therefore, he was the proper receptacle. He was spiritualized to the ultimate. He had the absolute clarity. If Moshe Rabbeinu, when he prophesied, the Gemara tells us he prophesied Aspaklaira Miro. He prophesied with a clear lens. He didn't need a riddle and then a deciphering of that riddle. Another Navi didn't have that level of clarity because he didn't have the level of emes. Moshe, because he was emes, Moshe emes, Torah emes. It was at the ultimate level, purely for the sake of Torah. Totally negated and subjugated to Hashem. His Torah spiritualized him at that most pure level. Therefore, he had that level of clarity. So because that means he's the question, he's the equivalent of being attached to Hashem. Amalek is sheker on the most extreme level, falsehood. Therefore, it's a claim against Moshe. What he's sending Yeshua, as great as Yeshua is, but he's only Pnei Chama. And we say, as the Balaturim says, Eiba Parshas Nor Osama Chemasa Bereshis Loma B'mokom Ner Ein Soten Ve'mazik. In the location of the Ner, of the light, There is no Satan and there's no Mazik. Ubeschusner mitzvah Torah, sosim piv shel sot milastin. It silenced the prosecution, that he cannot open his mouth to prosecute Klal Yisrael. There's a Orach Chaim HaKodesh. He speaks about the menorah, the oil, the droplet of oil that was extracted from the olive for illumination. He says, "U'b'derech remez yizbar ha'kosav al derech maimer huva b'sefer haZohar chodosh." He says, on an illusionary level, you can interpret this based on the Zohar. Ki daled goli shel Yisrael kol echad mehem niglu b'mer b'schus echad. Everyone that the exiles were involved with was the Babylonian exile, Porsamodai, the Persian exile, the Greek exile, and the ultimate exile, which is the Edomite exile, which we still haven't been redeemed from. We were redeemed in the merit of one person. So he explains, this is the Zohar. The Babylonian exile, we were redeemed in the merit of Avram Avinu. Bezis, Paras and Modai, Nigelu b'schus Yitzchak. Gimel, the third exile, which is Yovan, the Greeks, b'schus Yaakov, which makes sense, right? The Greeks wanted to uproot Torah, and Yaakov says no. It is Yaakov, which is Ishtam Yoshiva Olim, that's b'schus Yaakov. Hadalid, the fourth exile, which we're still experiencing, which is Golas Edom, b'schus Moshe. That's going to be in the merit of Moshe Rabbeinu. Why? Well, that's the reason why this Golus is so lengthy. Because until we engage in Torah mitzvahs, a Moshe Chovetz Ligo, Moshe has no interest in redeeming us in his merit. Am Batlonim min Torah, a nation which negates itself from Torah itself. Zeu Sheroma Zakozov Kam Ba'omro V'Atot Tzaveh Es Bnei Yisrael Derech Ki Malchav Tzavodoch. O Al Derech Ma'omrim Zal Ein Tzaveh Lo Shem Malchus Ki Hu Yimloch Oleinu Lo'osid. U'Tanayu, ultimately, who's going to be the Melech? Moshe Rabbeinu. U'Tanayu Adov Shisasku B'Torah. But there's a precondition. When will he allow his merit to be used? You first have to engage in Torah study. You should take for yourself pure olive oil. Yirmos ala Torah, shnimshul Hashem. Torah is compared to oil, olive oil. Ma'ashem and meil olam. Just as oil illuminates the world, that's the fuel that illuminates the physical world. Kedat Torah. Identically, Torah illuminates everything. It has to be pure. As the oil is only pure without the sediment, identically we have to engage in Torah so lishma for the sake of the Torah without any ulterior motives. Shem lekanter chasur. The lekanter means you're doing it out of spite, to show up the other person how little he knows. Or gadel, or to ingratiate ourselves. That's the sediment that you find in the olive oil. The ode, kosis lamor, has to be crushed. Pirish tzrichen lasuk b'torah kasis guf m'kochim. We say the fum tzaragra. Person has to be in a state of sacrifice to be able to extract from the Torah what you have to extract. Al derech omro zos haTorah odem ki omos. Kusafti inyan zeh b'chefzi. Inyan mi'aminim. Okay. very interesting. The Gemara tells us that you should speak to all those who have wisdom. Had the one I filled with the spirit of Chokhmah, and they will make the vestments for Aaron, Lakacho, to sanctify him, and he should be my Kohen. Now the question is, who are the Chachmei Lev? So the Gemara says, Hashem, it says, B'lev kol chochma nosati chochma. In the heart of every wise heart, I put chochma. So the Gemara says, you only put chochma in a heart that has wisdom in it. That has wisdom in it. Now the question is, where does it begin? The one who was wise, the one Hashem put wisdom in, and the only one who had wisdom was the one who had wisdom in his heart. So where does it start? How do you get started? So the Gemara says that Reishis Chochmah Yiras Hashem. The beginning of wisdom is Yiras Hashem. It says Hakol b'yedei Shemayim chutz miYerushalayim. Everything is predestined except for Yerushalayim. That's one's initiative. So the Jew who chose Yiras Hashem, which is Reishis Chochmah, that person I gave Chochmah. The person who had reverence and fear of God, that's the one I endowed with Chochmah. And that's not the wisdom that's initially endowed. This is based on Hakol b'yedei Shemayim chutz miYerushalayim. Everything is predestined except the fear of God. So the one who came from fear of God, that was his own initiative. So if you have that, that person Hashem endowed with Chochmah. So here the Baal Turim says, Chachmei Lev Asher b'gematria Yoreso. Those words, Chachmei Lev Asher, it's a numerical value of Yoreso. You feared. Ki Misha Mile is Yiras Hashem, Misha Mole, a person who's filled with Yerushalayim, Ein Shenema Reishis Chochmah Yiras Hashem. It's David's words in Tehillim. The first of wisdom is Yiras Hashem. That's the person who was endowed with more wisdom. Again, as it says by the oil, Ato tetzaveh, you must. So, apis, according to the Zohar, means because in your merit you're going to redeem them. But we said because oil is Torah, and who was the most connected to Torah? That was Moshe Rabbeinu. Therefore, you're the one who has to be involved in this whole process of extraction of that purest form oil, because that's who you are. What about Ato Hakrev Yelechas Aaron Achicha? You should bring Aaron, your brother, close, and his children to install them as Kohanim. Why? So here it's very interesting. We find that initially Moshe should have been the Kohen. If you would choose a Kohen, who's most qualified? Moshe Rabbeinu. He should be the officiant. But because at the burning bush, he was transient with Hashem, when God answered all his questions, the end of the discussion, the dialogue, Moshe says to Hashem, choose the one who you normally choose to be a spokesman. Hashem became angry, and he says, Aaron, who was going to be a Levi until now, he's going to be the Kohen. That was the punishment. The question is that sufficient? Is that sufficient for Moshe Rabbeinu to atone for being obstinate at that time? So Or HaChaim HaKodesh explains over here that although he forfeited the kuna, which is something very painful forever, not him or his children will be Kohanim, but nevertheless, it's not enough for you not to be the Kohen. When you install your brother and his children, you have to install them with simcha, with joy. When you do that, that is an indication that you fully embraced and understand why you're not the Kohen, and it's better they should be the Kohanim. When you understand that, then you're fully reinstated where you should have been initially. said, "Ata hakrev ilechas arad ochif es bonav ito." Now, I mean, he installed. It only mentions as bonav ito. He says the word Aaron in one pasuk is mentioned 3 times. Here, Aaron. Gimel pavim Aaron the pasuk. Remez l'shloshu hanim shisharu. How many Kohanim ultimately are going to be left? None of them were killed because they took the Ezoro, the foreign fire. So we have Aaron 3 times to correspond to what's going to be the number of Kohanim at the end of the day? 3 founding Kohanim. Aaron and Elos Somar. Beim Aaron Los Somar, the Gimel Pomim Lechanoli. The word Lechanoli means to officiate is mentioned 3 times. Parsha Keneged by Rishon, by Sheni Ulosid. Lechanoli 3 times. They're going to officiate the first bias, they're going to officiate the second bias, and they're going to officiate in the third bias, which still hasn't come yet. It's alluding to 3 times. That's why it's mentioned 3 times Lechanoli. We read in the Parsha that the Mori, Hashem says to Moshe, "Take oses hanorah." So that's one of the things Moshe had difficulty making. So Hashem says, "Take the gold, just put it in the fire," and it came out of menorah. It was made by itself, meaning Hashem made the menorah. I mean, what was so difficult for Moshe to make the menorah? He had the visual. He saw on the mountain exactly how it's supposed to look. What couldn't he come upon? What was too difficult for him to contend with or to fathom? So we had said that it's not the physical structure. Every vessel, every aspect of the Mishkan had to be infused with a specific kavanah, with an intent. And if it wasn't infused with that kavanah, with that intent, it did not function in its proper capacity. Now, what is the menorah? Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral law. So what has to be infused into the menorah? Intent of the oral law. Now, what is the oral law? The oral law is infinite. And because it's infinite, Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't come upon the proper intent to infuse the menorah to function in that capacity of infinite. So who's the only one who can? Only the infinite one. So Hashem himself, he infused within that vessel the intent for the infinite, from the infinite. That's the reason why it had to be him and couldn't have been anybody else.